well, and thanks so much for joining our session today. And we're really excited to introduce you to the University of Sussex. And I will also be handing over to my fantastic colleague Anke to talk more about development studies at Sussex, which is what some of you may already know us for, but is globally what we are most known for. I'm going to start with an intro to Sussex for those of you who don't know, and then we'll get into things a little bit more. So the University of Sussex was founded in 1961, and we're located just outside of the city of Brighton in the southeast of England. If your British geography isn't amazing, if you've got London on the map and you draw a line straight down to the ocean, you'll pretty much hit Brighton there. But obviously, as a small country, it's only an hour, so it's really well connected. We are a campus school, so we are a single site with everything in one space, which is something that we absolutely love. We're set in the South Downs National Park, which is the only English university to be in a national park setting. We have about 15,000 students currently with us at Sussex, and it's a really international community. So about just shy of 30% of our students come from overseas, and at master's level that's even higher, that's up in the 40%. So you will have people from all over the world in our degree programs, and it's not all just coming from one country. In our student body this year there was 165 different nations registered, so there really is pretty much minus 20 countries. I think we're well represented throughout our student body. The city that we're part of, Brighton, is also a really happy place. It was recently voted the happiest city in the UK. And for the second year running, actually. Our students love the city. It's got a really high retention rate of students staying after they graduate. And it's also a top 50 global city according to Time Out magazine. So we're up there with your Londons, your Lisbons, your New York cities. It's a fantastic place to live. You may get that I'm a little bit biased from this. It's my hometown, so I'm totally biased when talking about Brighton. But now I've got some data to back it up, I'll stick with it. So just want to introduce you to what life at Sussex might look like a little bit. So as I mentioned, we are a campus-based university, and campus really is a small town, whether it be eating at one of the bars and restaurants on campus, going to a couple of the sports centres, or like utilising kind of those like life services that you need. It's all in one space. We have a brand new healthcare centre that literally just opened last Saturday, and I actually popped in and it looks amazing, which students can benefit from there. We have the Attenborough Centre for the Creative Arts, after the very well-known actor Richard Attenborough. He was a previous chancellor of ours, and that's where our creative arts are. So it really is kind of like this sort of village feeling on campus, where students have got access to everything that they need in one space. Importantly, the library is 24 hours a day as well, so if someone likes to study at 3 a.m, whether they're staying up late or getting up super early, they've got that available to them as well. Student life is really busy for our students. We really encourage them to get involved in something within the Sussex community, whether that be getting involved in our student societies. We have over 180 that cover everything from, political views, cultural and national affiliations. It might be things that are more kind of serious, like Model UN, things like that, but also down to the kind of frivolous, like our dog walking society and the Taylor Swift society, and the musical arts are all covered, music more generally, computer, gaming. There's something for everybody there, and we do allow students to create their own option as well. In addition to the sort of society side of things, we have 40 competitive sports teams at the university. I won't lie and say that British sports are like American sports in universities. It's a very different world, but we still are competitive in them. We play against other universities, most notably against our rival university in the city, and for which we have won varsity for the last 10 years running. So we're very smug about that, I would say. And there's also loads to do if getting involved in those sort of group organised activities aren't really someone's thing, and whether it be going to the street food market that comes twice a week, going to see some live music on campus, and getting involved in the festivals and celebrations that the university run. So things like we have our One World Week celebration, which coincides with the Holy Festival, which celebrates the internationality of the university, or just going and listening to some amazing guest lectures and talks that we have throughout the year. It might be that a student's coming to study physics with us, but they want to hear from a political scientist that's coming to campus, and that is absolutely fine. We totally encourage everyone to get involved with everything that's possible on campus as well. For living, and we do guarantee on-campus residence for international master's students who meet the housing deadline, which is very, very generous. All of our residents, as I said, is in the campus space, so it's really convenient for getting to classes. They are all self-catered residents, so as you can see from some of the images there, really nice kitchens for everybody. And much unlike the American system, everybody has their own bedroom. So it's a much more mature, kind of private experience, and oftentimes bedrooms have their own bathrooms as well. With the prices that we have a real range in prices to suit whatever anybody's looking for, but it covers rents, utilities, cleaning, security, and contents insurance as well. And as part of coming to Sussex, you'll also get to experience the amazing city of Brighton. So Brighton's a city of about 300,000 people, so a mid-sized city for the UK, but it really punches above its weight in terms of life, things to do, and the culture. It is a pretty liberal city. I think it would be doing it a disservice to say anything else. And it is kind of leans into that. It's a young city as well. The majority of people that live in the city are under the age of 40. So it's young, professional, vibrant. Whether you like going shopping, you like sports, you're more outdoorsy, or cultures, your thing, you will find something for everybody in the city. As I said, I've lived in Brighton my entire life, which is longer than I'd care to admit these days, and I am not bored of living in Brighton. There is always something new going on, and we have just finished a big month in Brighton for the city. In May we have 2 festivals that run concurrently with one another, and the city kind of comes alive after Christmas, after the winter period. It's almost like it's coming out of hibernation with pop-up venues for music, for comedy, for the arts. It's fantastic, and it really kickstarts summer for us. So we appreciate that coming to Sussex, students are going to need support, and whilst they're at university and beyond, once they have graduated from us, and that's something we can totally offer as well. We have a really fantastic triage team that are based in our brand new student centre, and the student centre has only been open a couple of years, and it's a hub for all of our support services at the university. Their welcome team, the triage team, you can go to them and say, hey, I need help with this thing. Who do I speak to? How can I get in touch with those people? And they will kind of point you in the direction and sort that out for you, rather than you having to trawl through websites and find the relevant contact. No, it's in a one-stop place for you to go and get that information, or at least begin the journey to getting that information as well, whether that be advice on finances, jobs, careers, even personal issues, seeking therapy. That can all be done through the student centre. And these are kind of the wider services that we offer. We obviously have a disability advice team for those who are dealing with disabilities, whether that be physical or non-visible disabilities. We can support there. The residential life team is there to support everything with on-campus housing. We have an amazing visa advice and guidance team. So obviously the part of coming to the UK is that you're going to have to do a student visa. We've got people that can help you through that process, from your initial inquiry to oh my goodness, which form do I fill out? They're there to help with that as well. We have our students union, and they are there to represent you to the university should there be any issues, but also they have the support network of our buddy scheme, and they run all of the clubs and societies. And I think going through university, most people would agree that peer support is super important to your experience and making sure that you feel connected to your community. And also on campus there's a 24/7 security team. Campus is really safe. It's just outside of the city centre, so no one's really there unless they need to be, but it's there nevertheless, just in case anyone needs support with anything. Realistically, what they spend most of their time doing is letting people back into their rooms when they've lost their keys. That's really what they're doing, but they're there to give that bit of reassurance. And we also have the Meeting House building, which is our multi-faith chapel on campus. They run religious services throughout the week for the various religions. We also have prayer rooms for those who need it, but they're also a source of kind of just general spirituality and mindfulness, and they can support in that space as well. And obviously, we want you to really enjoy your time at Sussex and not be thinking about graduating as soon as you arrive, but thinking about what the support can look like going beyond your masters is super important. Sussex has a really strong employability offering with employability at the heart of kind of everything we do in our degrees, whether that be a placement, whether that be a guaranteed internship, depending on the program, we've got it all in there for you. We have our careers and entrepreneurship team to help you find your place in work, whether that be going, like I said, going through a paid placements that they've got options with. It might be going through our career lab, which is the sort of flagship program for building those employability skills. And this is open to our international students as much as our domestic students as well. You fully wanting you to get involved with. Actually, we find our international students get involved with these things much more than our domestic students do. Typically, they really want this input. It might be also supporting you as an entrepreneur and setting up, helping you to launch a business and giving you access to resources that you might be missing somewhere along the line as well. We really want to support that within our student community. And also that very sort of kind of almost kind of basic but often overlooked advice, whether it be those one-to-one appointments where you just need to talk things out with a careers advisor. It might be looking at your resume and making sure that it's ready for this kind of new employability world that we're working with. It also looks like specialized careers events throughout the year. The careers team will put on events that are specific to kind of subject areas. So for example, they do one with the law school, and it's a whole week of prep to applying for post-graduation law, those kinds of things. And also part-time jobs whilst you're at Sussex. You are eligible to work in the UK, so we'll support with that as well. So now coming on to your studies at Sussex, what that might look like. So masters at Sussex typically are 1 year, so 12-month programs. The typical structure would be 2 terms of teaching, 1 of research, and typically a thesis is required. It does vary from program to program a little, but this is typically what we look like. For those students considering studying at Sussex Business School, there are guaranteed internships available for all of their programs. And some of our degrees are slightly longer, but they have a year's worth of work experience within them as well. So if you are kind of looking particularly in the STEM fields, those are those options there. So what does this kind of look like financially for our students? So tuition for master's degrees is between £23,500 to about £27,500. It is programme dependent, so always check the fine print on that, and it will be on any offer letter that you get. And from Sussex, it will also be on our website, so you can find this information very, very easily. And housing starting at around £5,000 for the full 12 months. In terms of funding options, obviously we have our amazing partnership with the Marshall Scholarship, and we offer 2 Marshall scholarships per year, which is a fantastic offering. We also work with Fulbright, and we are a FAFSA approved university. So if you're looking at using any federal funding to fund your studies in the UK, you can do that at Sussex. Of course, we also have funding options within the university. So things like our Chancellor's International Scholarship, which is a £5,000 discount on your tuition for competitive students. Same for our Sussex Progressive Future Scholarship for certain degree programmes. And then there's smaller subject-based scholarships, which vary throughout the year and throughout each cycle as well. So there's definitely options in terms of funding for you at Sussex. So what are our subject areas? So we are a comprehensive university. We offer the majority of subjects, I would say, and we are I guess the things that we do less are things like your nursing, architecture, the more hands-on things. So we will have the Faculty of Social Sciences, which Anke is joining us from today, and that's the School of Global Studies, Law, Politics and Sociology, Education and Social Work. We have Sussex Business School, which covers things like business management and economics, accounting, finance, marketing, and also houses the prestigious Science Policy Research Unit. We have the School of Media Arts and Humanities, which is media as film, English, history, art history and philosophy. And then finally the School of the Faculty of Science, Engineering and Medicine, which is engineering, informatics, so computer science is in this as well, life sciences, your biology, chemistry, that kind of world, math and physical sciences, and they also have Brighton and Sussex Medical School within them. So lots of different options. And I think to say on this, and I'm sure Anke will speak to this a little as well, our teaching at Sussex is so interdisciplinary that just because you're within one school doesn't mean that that is the only thing you're going to be studying or having input from faculty from. You are really encouraged to have this really interdisciplinary educational experience. And as a Sussex alumni, I can totally attest to that's what my experience was at Sussex as well. I did a history degree at Sussex, but I had involvement from the English department, from media, from film, from politics, and from global studies, all within this as well. So you really do get that experience. We are a research intensive university, so our professors, as much as they love teaching everybody, they have their areas of expertise and their passions that they still have access to doing research for. These are our 12 centres of excellence at the university we have, but also we have so many other research centres throughout the university as well. And in our last referendum on research in the UK universities, 89% of research at Sussex was classified as world leading or of international excellence, which we're very proud of. And I think it's super important for you guys, if you are considering kind of doing research when you're at Sussex with your own thesis, to have this kind of input going in, not only from knowledge, but also the skill set that's needed in it as well. We're also very we've done pretty well in our academic space in the last year. So we currently have 9 subjects in the top 100 globally from QS. Development studies is our flagship program in this, and I will let Anke speak to this a little bit. But all of these other subject areas, you can really see where Sussex's strengths lie. And just to finish on, do a nice transition over to Anke for this, but we, as I said, have been ranked first in the world for development studies for the last 10 years. So this isn't a fluke. This is something that we are consistently good at. And we put a lot of time and effort into ensuring that this is accessible for all students, not just in one singular programme. So I will now pass over to Anke to carry on talking to you about development studies at Sussex.
Brilliant. Thank you, Kasia, for this introduction to Sussex. And hi, everybody. Thank you for being here today and learning about our university. Kasia, if you want to do the next slide. Yeah, I just wanted to spend a little bit more time talking about our #1 in the world in development studies, because it's pretty remarkable. And what's interesting is the QS rankings for development studies have actually been, they started 12 years ago. And when they first came out, we were #1. And then the following year, we were #2 because Harvard was #1. Didn't feel too bad about that. But since then, we have, as Kasia was saying, for 10 years in a row, been first in the world for development studies. And that's a very rare feat. The reason for that is that we have an amazing community of researchers and educators in pretty much every single one of these faculties that Kasia was mentioning. They are people sitting in different departments, different schools, different research centers, doing development-related work. And development studies is in and of itself a very interdisciplinary field that looks at global challenges and kind of responses to these challenges, solutions, who's working on them, what are the implications on them. So it's a field that draws on a lot of different disciplines in and of itself, and that's exactly how we are thinking about it, how we are researching it, and how we are teaching it. So on last count, it was about 150 researchers and educators, as I said, distributed all across the university. So there's obviously a critical mass of people, which makes Sussex such an exciting place to work in international development and also to study in this field. We also have the Institute for Development Studies co-located on campus, and some of you might have heard of it. It's a kind of policy research consulting institute that does a lot of applied work. They also do some of their own teaching. There's really close collaborations between IDS and the university. And obviously that again brings in lots of speakers, lots of events, lots of kind of research opportunities. So between Sussex and IDS, this is what's really being kind of recognized every year. Kasia mentioned the School of Global Studies. So I'm in the Faculty of Social Sciences, and I work in the School of Global Studies. I'm a professor of anthropology and global development. So that's my background. And I've been at Sussex for 12 years now, and pretty much all of my teaching is related to international development. So I can also speak to this from my own experience. As I said, it's really interdisciplinary research and teaching. And on the next slide, I just wanted to give you an idea of some of our research strength. And I thought the best way to do this is to list all the different research centers that we have, a lot of them in global studies, a lot of them in the Faculty of Social Sciences, but also some in other parts of the university that are dealing with development research to some extent. And I'm just going to go through them and spend a little bit of time, because it also gives you some idea of where our research strength lies, but also some idea of what development studies actually entails. So we have the Sussex Centre for Migration Research, which is a internationally recognized center. It's one of our centers of excellence, which has its own journal, doing a lot of work. They have a speaker series, and they have 2 connected master's programs. And I'll talk about our master's programs in a second. So migration research and the connection to refugee studies, the connections to different levels of migration, different forms of migration is a real kind of prominent research area. Our Center for International Studies, another Center of Excellence, Center for International Education, apologies, really looks at the connections between development and education, and how education can contribute to fulfilling some of the SDGs around international development, but also what are international education policies like in different countries, and then how does this affect how students actually learn. We have a gender studies, and a little bit further down a gender studies in gender sexuality is a real big focus area in Sussex, especially in social sciences in general. You will see we have a dedicated master's in that area, so lots of research happening around there. And then we have a number of geographically focused research centers. So we have the Asia Center, the Africa Center, and the Middle East and North Africa Center. And they're really a connection point to bring people from all across campus together who are doing research on these areas. Our Sussex Asia Center, for example, runs an annual conference. They run PhD events every year. So these are really kind of thriving, vibrant research centers. Then the next 2, the Center for Rights and Anti-Colonial Justice and the Center for Human Rights. And this is a real area of research that has been important to Sussex for a long, long time. Kasia mentioned we've been around since the early 60s. We were one of the first post-Second World War universities in the UK. And an emphasis especially on kind of decolonizing and anti-colonial struggle has been part of our DNA. We have a really strong connection with South Africa. And I've heard somewhere a really significant number of the people in the first post-apartheid South African government were educated at Sussex. We have a Mandela Scholarship. So that's a real kind of concrete link, an example of our anti-colonial work. And we have people who are doing research on this and who are now kind of continuing this kind of work in this research center. We have the Center for Global Insecurity Research, and we have a whole Department of International Relations. Maybe I should just say Global Studies is the Department of International Development, Anthropology, Geography, and International Relations. So that's our School of Global Studies. And our international relations has a real strong security focus, looking at conflicts, peace studies, security studies. Our Sussex Sustainability Research Program is another center of excellence, and sustainability, especially environmental sustainability, but not exclusively so, is something that's, again, taken up all across the campus, and there's lots of research and applied work happening in this area. And then a couple of health-related centers for global health policy and the Center for Reproduction Technology and Health. So this just gives you some idea where what kind of research is happening that is related to international development studies, and where some of these centers are sitting. And as I said, all of these centers are reaching out across the university and really bringing people together from different schools and departments, because those are really kind of interdisciplinary areas to look at. And then the next slide, again, is another long list, but I thought it would just be good to put it all out there. These are all the master's programs that we are offering at the university that are in some way related to development. And you can see here we have anything kind of from anthropology and the relationship between anthropology and global development practice. We have a number of IR-related degrees, conflict, security and development, international political economy. We have contemporary democratic politics, which sits in our politics department. We have an environmentally focused MA, gender violence and conflict. That's what I was alluding to earlier. So that's a real MA that focuses very specifically on the intersections of gender violence and conflict in countries in the global south. Geopolitics and international affairs. We have a human rights MA, international education and development, political economy, media practice for development and social change. I'm going to say a little bit more about that because I co-convene that one. It's a very special MA. We have 2 migration-related MAs, as I mentioned earlier, one migration and global development, so it's a bit more general. And the second one, migration and refugee studies, which focuses very specifically on kind of all the dynamics arising around refugees and refugee movements. And then finally, a more general social development MA. So as you can see, a long list. Most of them sit in global studies. The education one sits in our School of Education and Social Work, and the contemporary democratic politics sits in our politics department. But all the other ones are in global studies. A couple of things to note, you will see here behind the conflict, security and development MA and the environment, development and policy MA, it says there we have a dual MA with Lewis in Rome. And this is a really exciting opportunity for people who, as Kasia said, our masters are 1 year. With this dual MA, people would undertake 1 year of study at LUIS, which is a university in Rome that really focuses around issues of governance and policy, international relations. They do 1 year in LUIS in Rome. Then they come to Sussex and do either of these 2 MAs. And then they get 2 different degrees for their 2 year of study. And that's something that we've recently developed. It's also a kind of a stronger integration, obviously, with kind of European issues. But I just wanted to mention that. And then, as I said, I just want to spend a little bit of time on the media practice for development and social change MA, because it's a really unique MA that Sussex has developed. I think it's been running for 14 years now. And it obviously, again, is related to development studies, but it's a 50% theory and 50% practice. So people come and they take theoretical modules where they really understand development and the relationship to development communication, representations of development, what are the stories that are being created around development by different actors? How can you do this in an ethical and responsible way? But the other 50% is practical, where students are learning how to make a documentary, how to take professional photos, how to do a podcast, how to build a website, how to do social media work. And then in the spring term, when the students are taking their options, they can specialize in any of these media technologies. And then they have the options to do either a written dissertation or a practical dissertation. And both of these can be combined with a placement. And this MA sits between the School of Global Studies and our Faculty for Media Arts and Humanities, which Kasia mentioned as well. And because I have been co-convening and teaching on this MA for the whole 12 years that I've been here, I can also attest to the very international nature of our MA programs. That's kind of generally, but in media practice, it's about 30 students every year. And about 80% of these students are coming from abroad, mainly from countries in the global south, lots of them on a number of scholarships, either from their own governments or different scholarship themes. I have to say that over the last 2 years, we've had an increasing number of students from the US, and that's been really amazing to have them on our program, because they are bringing a whole different level of kind of knowledge and background and expertise. The other thing that's happening with our master's programs, that we have a lot of professional students on our programs So some students, they're coming straight out of an undergraduate and they're going in. But because we have these scholarship students, a lot of students on our MAs, they will have been in a professional capacity. So on the media practice one, we have a lot of journalists. We have a lot of people who work for their governments or big NGOs in some kind of PR or communications functions. And then they take a year out, they do some upskilling, they come to Sussex, and it just results in the most amazing conversations in the classroom, in the modules, a lot of peer learning. So I think that's something really, really unique that's happening at Sussex. And the other thing I also maybe actually go to the next slide, because I did want to also speak to the MA placement option. Kasia already mentioned that employability and getting students ready for work after their studies, for careers, is a kind of a really important part of what we do at Sussex. And all of our MAs have placement options. They can be either research placements or practice placements. So some of the more theoretical MAs have research placements. In the media practice for development and social change ones, for example, there are practice placements where our students are, furthering their practical experience. We have dedicated offices who help students find these placements. So Kasia mentioned the careers office. In global studies, we have a dedicated placement coordinator who works with students. For the media practice one, I work really closely with the students, helping them find and source their placements. We also just recently developed a relationship with FAO, which is the Food and Agriculture Organization in Rome, a UN entity where two students from our masters have guaranteed placement options in Rome. It is competitive because it's open to a number of different masters, but we have two guaranteed places for people to go to Rome and do a summer internship there. But beyond these internships, I also just wanted to say that we've put a lot of emphasis in our very teaching to bring a lot of these practical skills, applied skills into the classroom, into the modules, so that it's not just the summer placement that helps students develop these skills. And again, I can just talk about my own experience. I teach a module on activism for development and social change in the spring. It's one of the spring options that our master students can take. And we learn a lot about kind of different theories on activism, and we look at case studies and the history. But then the second half of the module, students design an activism campaign. So they will learn really, really concrete skills around kind of, project management and stakeholder analysis and communications and budgeting. And that's just one example. In some of our modules, students learn how to write policy briefs, how to write blog posts, how to do podcasts. So a variety of different skills that are being offered in the very teaching, because international development is not only interdisciplinary, it's also a very applied field. And we are kind of recognizing that in our own teaching. And then I think similarly, in terms of careers, you can just see some of the logos here for companies that our students are doing placements with, but it would be very similar for organizations where our students are going to after their studies. So they might return to their own places of work if they've been on some kind of scholarship, but they get jobs in international organizations, national organizations, or some of those here are actually very local organizations: Hummingbird, Clock Tower Sanctuary, Voices in Exile. Brighton is a city of sanctuary. Sussex is a university of sanctuary. So again, that ties into our migration work. There's a lot happening. And sometimes students find work with these local organizations. So they have skills that can be applied in a variety of different contexts. And I think I might just leave it here and open up to questions you're hopefully having, and there's our contact information.
Yeah, absolutely. We're always happy to hear from you. So if you have questions about studying at Sussex or the process or general questions, you can absolutely come to me. I'm kind of jack of all trades, master of none. So I'll find the answer for you if I don't know it. But you can get in touch with me on k.symons@sussex.ac.uk, or if you scan the QR code, that'll be a link to book in a one-to-one appointment. And obviously, you can always email Anke with any program-specific questions about development and studies at Sussex. Well, thanks so much for your time today. We really appreciate you being here and listening. We definitely have time for some questions, and we've got through that quite quickly, which I'm pleased about. So if you do have anything, Stephanie, I don't know how you want to do questions today.
Yeah, just happy for people to sort of raise their hands when they're ready to go. Thanks, guys.
I guess if you're feeling shy, you can also put them in the chat if you need to.
I think there might have been some in the chat already that I just saw.
So there was a question about the dual MA with the Marshall Scholarship. So I can take that one. The Marshall Scholarship would only cover the time at Sussex, which is fine. Like that's not an issue at all. And then we'd have to, the student would have to fund the alternate time in Rome themselves.
Lovely. Well, I think you've done a brilliant job, Kasia. We've got everyone is stunned silence, which is
Great.
fantastic. We like that. Well done. You've been
I've
very
just realised
comprehensive.
I missed something actually. So I forgot to put a thing about admissions on our slide of what we're looking for. So just as a very quick summary, students apply directly to Sussex. It's free to apply. They can apply for 2 programs on one application for master's students, and applications for September 2027, goodness, 2027, we're talking about that already, will open in October 2026. We don't have a hard deadline, and as hopefully you guys know, it's much more fluid in the UK than it is in the US for master's programs. We would advise students do apply by March typically, because that is a good time for if they're applying for any scholarships at Sussex, and obviously they'll have the constraints that Marshall need as well. Typically for admissions requirements, we'll look for a minimum 3.3 GPA cumulative or above from a relevant discipline. There are a couple of the MAs that do require some work experience, but all of that detail can be found on our website as well. And the application requires a personal statement and an academic reference for students as well.
Wonderful. Thank you guys so much. This has been wonderful and such a brilliant insight into a truly special development program at a time when that area of study is so badly needed in the world with recent cutbacks in many places. So thank you guys, and thank you to Sussex for continuing to lead the charge in that space. It's very important. Thank you, all of the attendees for today. It was wonderful hosting you, and we hope you found this session very, very helpful. We look forward to welcoming University College London for our next session on the 22nd of June. And until then, if you plan on joining us, we wish you well and look forward to catching you then. If not, you'd be very welcome to still sign up for that session through the Marshall Monday portion of the website. Otherwise, we wish you all a wonderful afternoon and look forward to connecting again soon. Kasia and Anke, very many thanks to you for this fantastic presentation. We do appreciate it. Take care, everybody, and see you soon. Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. Thank you, everybody. Thank you for listening.